do do do. Setting up the stream. Right, so this stuff, I don't know. My chair is squeaky. This is my chair. Okay. Right. So. Alright. So, I'm just sharing some stuff I'm working on. As I like to say, keeping a digital fossil record of the projects I'm working on. And what you're seeing right now is part of a animatic for music video I'm working on for a band. The last stream I did was for this kind of rubber hose type of music video with robots in a city and like this AI eyeball automating everything and making the robots even more robotic. But this is a different video that's kind of gonna be a little bit inspired by like I guess underground comics mixed with 1970s psychedelic stuff mixed with some UFO alien stuff, and this alien gets abducted by this UFO that has a band in it. And yeah, so that's basically what I've been up to, working on 2 different projects. And so this is a part of a head turn from this alien. This is on 6 frames a second, and I'm gonna have the camera going in all slow, like kind of like a slow zoom, and then just showing random scenes that I'm on. This one, whoa, that's way too fast. This one's on 6 frames a second. Hey, what's up, Enigmatic Foe? Thank you so much for the kind words. I'm working on 2 music videos right now. And this one, this UFO goes into this lead character's face and he turns into a star. And then it's kind of hard to explain. A lot of this stuff I kind of, like, I write down a script and then kind of just do loose thumbnails based off a script. And sometimes I'll change the script based on what I'm drawing. But like my general process is I'll write a little outline, and then from that paragraph, construct the whole music video and listen to the song over and over in my head, like while I'm walking or just doing things around the house. And it's like the music video starts to construct itself inside my subconscious, and then I'll start writing down ideas and then time code it to specific parts of the song where I want something to happen. And then from here, this is the blueprint of the storyboard. And from there, I go in and will start drawing specific drawings based off of the script. And then from there, I'll import all these drawings into my video software, like Final Cut, and match it up to the song. And then from there, I'll just, like, the whole video is pretty much planned out. From there, it's just a matter of actually animating the thing, which of course takes a lot of time. But basically the most brain work, the most deep thinking comes at this planning stage, and then from there it's kind of more grunt work. You're just going through the stuff. Oh, so I have a bunch of folders open. This is actually from the other video I was working on, the robot animation on my last live stream. Oh yeah, and I also released a music video a couple of days ago called Magic Guys, and you should check it out because that's also a music video that I worked on this summer for this really talented multi-instrumentalist named Bobby Emmett. He just reached out to me. I think he was on my email list maybe or something, I don't know, but he had my email, and he just needed a video done in 1 month. So it was a really tight deadline. So we had to do a style that was more simple, limited frames, limited frame count. And it's called Magic Eyes. And he's also the keyboardist for Jack White, which I didn't know. I went to his Instagram, and then I saw that he's the touring the touring keyboardist for Jack White, which is pretty crazy. And so yeah, that'd be awesome to make something for Jack White, but I don't know if he saw it. And this is another scene from the robot animation. I know I'm kind of jumping between these two projects right now. Kind of also like working on multiple projects sort of also keeps me from feeling a little bit too like, okay, so because animation takes so long, it can feel like you're not really making progress sometimes, or it takes so long to make progress. But if you're working on a couple of different projects, then you kind of can bounce around and see the progress being made across multiple areas. So like I might be working on the storyboards of one project and then go in and I'll be doing the in-betweens and line work on this project. And the risk there, of course, is being spread too thin across too many things. So I try not to take on too many music videos at once, but I'll have like maybe like a poster going on a different project, or working on some of my own songs at the nighttime. It's less, well, and there's also the economic demands of like, I kind of just have to keep working on stuff or else I will, it's just how it goes. But here's a sequence right here of this guy playing pool. Most of this is unfinished, but I'll just show you. So yeah, I just import the audio and kind of sync stuff up to what's happening. So this is a finished colored frame, well, besides the pool balls here. But yeah, so I'm working on this sequence here. I roughed most of this out pretty fast, so just kind of doing it fast. And there's also like a lot of looping parts, like this lemon's looping. And then like this part is a mixed frame rate where, well, the whole project is 24 frames a second, but I'll stretch out different frames depending on how fast something should happen or how long it should stay on the screen. So like down here on my timeline, you can see a lot of these frames. It lasts for 4 exposures, then 3 exposures, 2 exposures, sometimes 4 exposures. It just kind of gives it like a texture. And also, like, if I actually animate actual texture over this stuff, you wouldn't want a super fast frame rate because the texture will be flickering everywhere. So I'm also keeping that kind of stuff in mind as I'm animating. This part's all on 2s, and this part happens really fast and it's more chaotic. So when the alien hits the lemon, the ball's going to be going all around, knocking the pool balls into the holes, and then the lemon comes up, and then we go to inside the hole, and he's gonna play his guitar, and the lemon is gonna be surfing on the neck of the guitar, which I know this is super rough right here, but you can kind of see the general motion. I'm just planning out the flow and the motion and the timing, and then that's kind of how I do stuff like that. And because these are like kind of balls and circular shapes, I feel like I can get away with drawing a lot of frames here because it won't take too long to clean up, in theory. Yeah, I forgot I'm also streaming on YouTube, and I didn't check my chat. So my laptop actually broke and that's usually what I use to have my stream open on my other computer, but my laptop's broken, so I'm trying to use my old tablet set up to the side here, and it's old and stupid. I don't know if I can see the live chat. Usually don't usually forget to respond sometimes, but I'm trying to be a more interactive human being and connect with my fellow human beings. And, well, I'm afraid I can't see that. Well, anyways, if someone said anything and I didn't respond, I am very sorry. I'm not trying to be rude or antisocial. This is just how it is. I can't really see stuff right now, but I can see the chat on Instagram. So I'll try to kind of keep an eye on my phone as well. Not much of a multitasker, but animation takes up a lot of brain work. And I guess I'll show some backgrounds too. So I'm just gonna jump to my other project now. Whoops, hold on. Too many things. Right. So there's some backgrounds for the robot one. This is like a big tower, and I basically drew the background, obviously, and then I colored like the flats, and then I sent it to my animation partner, Kid Pin. You can follow her on Instagram, and she basically makes it fancy and adds like texture and shading, and she did the line work. So I'll draw like the composition, and it's a team effort, and she helps me on all my projects, including my loops. It's a teamwork effort, and I would be in a real pickle without her assistance and guidance. And then this is another little background asset. So like this might not be clear in this PNG because it's not showing the transparent little squares or whatever, but this background is transparent. So when I start compositing stuff, I can overlay this, and so like I'll have some parallax scrolling with some other assets behind it and in front of it, with some characters in front of it. So yeah, it's like in addition to doing all the animation, we have to do the backgrounds, which is like a whole different mindset. It's kind of like building Legos to move around and manipulate and build scenes out of. And yeah, so often, you're watching an animation and you might take the backgrounds for granted, but the backgrounds ground everything. So I sometimes pay more attention to backgrounds because I just find it interesting, like the context in which the characters are interacting is also interesting. The layout, everything that's on the screen is all part of one big expression. It's not just any one element that's the most important, but how all the elements interact with each other. And usually, of course, like in a animation team, you have tons of different workers to specialize, like in storyboards, compositing, coloring, in-betweeners, all that stuff. There's like so many different aspects that go into it. And yeah, so like be cool if I had even like one other person, like a background person, and then I could focus more just on the storyboards, and maybe like some other pro animators who could just animate all the stuff. Again, that's like not an economic reality at the moment, but I'd eventually like to be able to expand and make more like teamwork type things. Even though I'm kind of a cat, I'm just kind of just like live in my own head. But oh yeah, the musical notes look like the symbols for pi. I don't know how to read music, but wanted to incorporate the music notes stuff in there. All right, so I guess, well, now I'm just gonna start kind of cleaning up some stuff here. Turn the opacity down, and I'm gonna actually keep the cleanup kind of loose. I'm not gonna be too precious about this because this stuff is happening fast, and I might add some like kind of textural things over this later. I'm not really sure. J Studio says please. What? Oh wait, Jason Studios. Oh, okay. Hold on. I have a question. What do you think is advisable to do first, the background or the animation? That is a super good question. And it all goes into the storyboards, where you start out doing the storyboard, but over the storyboard, you'll create what's called a layout drawing, where you figure out the backgrounds and how the animation will fit with the backgrounds. So this is basically a storyboard drawing, and then when I go in later, I will turn the opacity down and create a better sketch, a more realized sketch of this scene, and keep in mind how the character will work with this scene. So this scene in particular, basically I'll create these background assets, and they will be panning as this character will be on a walk cycle. So yeah, like it's, you wouldn't want to just draw the characters and then figure out the backgrounds, because the characters are often interacting with the backgrounds on the same mindset. You don't want to spend all this time creating backgrounds and then figure out later what the characters will do on it. So basically you do both. Like you figure out how they'll both flow together. Now you could, the initial idea for a scene could start out with the character, or it could start out with the background. It's kind of like writing a song. Like you might come up with the melody first and then add the lyrics later. On the other hand, you might have written lyrics for a chorus, and then you write the chorus and then build the verses around the chorus. But it's like the initial spark of inspiration can come from anywhere. But ultimately you do have to figure out logically how all the pieces will work together and plan it to work together, if that makes sense. I have too many projects open. Oh, there we go. All right. These lumps. A lot of creators have different philosophies in terms of how they plan things. Like the One Piece guy, I believe, has the ending of One Piece planned out from the time he started it. And so his stories are they might seem at times random, but eventually everything pays off. He has a payoff for every character. Every character has an interesting backstory. Every tool or weapon has a meaning. So that's one way of doing things, where you really plan things out. Whereas Akira Toriyama, who also obviously has an insanely popular and successful creation of Dragon Ball, he didn't really plan anything out. The first Dragon Ball story was intended to just be a simple story of Goku finding the 7 Dragon Balls. Just a simple adventure, get the wish, and the story would be over. but he was encouraged by his editors to keep going. Originally, the original pitch for Dragon Ball was Dragon Boy, and it was just like a 2-page simple story that proved to be successful with readers. And it was initially literally the reason of starting Dragon Ball was just to pay desperately needed rent money. And so this initial thing that just started out as just making rent, turned into a legacy and has inspired countless creators and just people all around the world. And Akira Toriyama, Dragon Ball started out purely as like an adventure comedy. There was action in it, but the martial arts was more just like silly. And then around 1985, when the readership of Dragon Ball was waning, he added a tournament arc, and from then on the focus became more and more about martial arts, and the sales went crazy. And just by complete accident, Akira Toriyama basically created the shonen action genre that Naruto, One Piece, Bleach, all these massively popular mangas and animes are basically based on the formula that Akira Toriyama accidentally created, which is the training arcs, the tournament arcs, gaining new powers, transformations, the kind of stuff you think of Akira, that you associate with Dragon Ball Z. None of that was planned out. And also like Super Saiyan Goku, for instance, the yellow hair was done entirely for economic reasons, because he and his assistant were exhausted from drawing Goku's black hair every page. So they wanted a transformation where he wouldn't have to color Goku's hair anymore. He could just leave it white. And that was the reason Super Saiyan has golden, or in the case of a black and white manga, completely transparent hair. It's just interesting to think about how, I guess, certain limitations can inspire creativity and make things iconic, even if it might feel at the time like you're being restricted. Another example I like to think of is chiptune music or early video game music, 8-bit, 16-bit. They had a very limited amount of space, of memory on the cartridges, the cartridge-based video game systems. So you had to figure out how to create a short looping song that only has a few instruments, a few channels for, a drum, rhythm, and then a lead melody, and figure out how to make something that is, one, very catchy, that will loop a lot, but also that will not drive you crazy as it's looping and replaying the same melody over and over. And what this particular limitation led to was some of the most ear candy, catching, memorable, and just beautiful melodies ever created. And at the time, it was not, the creators of the video game music were frustrated by those limitations, that they couldn't make it sound like real instruments. And yet now that sound is so just, people try to make stuff sound like 8-bit and 16-bit. So it's like, it's its own quality, and it's like sometimes we just have to not try to force things to be a certain way, but accept certain limitations with your tools or even your abilities, and figure out how can you make something cool given these limitations. And no one else is going to know what you imagined in your head. All they're seeing is the finished thing. And if the finished thing is cool and people connect and resonate with it, then that's what it's all about. So this ball is going to be going in here. I'll have to go over later and add whatever number this is. I'm gonna save it just in case. So yeah, so like something like this 3 ball, I can basically just draw it once and then move it around so I don't have to redraw every frame. If this was like twisting or turning or doing weird stuff, then I'd have to draw every frame. But for this particular section, I can get away with reusing this asset so that it won't be something I have to keep redrawing. And I'm animating in the program TV Paint for anyone that's wondering. It's a little finicky on Mac. The Mac support isn't super great, but it works. You just have to, every program has its issues though. I want to get more competent at Blender because I feel good recommending that program because for one, it's free, so anyone can get into it. It is a little confusing, but there's so many tutorials on YouTube. In fact, I actually made a tutorial on YouTube about Blender Grease Pencil. It's like a 10-minute just info dump of everything I've learned about using Grease Pencil. So that is on YouTube on my channel. It's actually doing pretty good for my channel. I don't get like 1 billion views or anything, but I find my animation tutorials tend to do a little better, resonating with people or just getting recommended in the algorithm, getting search, because people are searching for that kind of stuff. So I want to make more kind of tutorial type stuff. It's also a good way to learn skills. Like the best way you can learn a skill is being able to teach it, because then it kind of solidifies it in your head. And it's also like a resource that I can go back to and look over myself, like sharing notes. I don't particularly love doing cleanup. Even though it's like kind of easy, it's also annoying to try to get the lines looking the way I need them to. It's like rough animation. Well, you can be rough and scribbly with it. It's harder though in terms of thinking, because you have to plan out all the movements. Whereas with cleanup, the movements are basically planned. Now you can do things to correct any mistakes or tweak the movements, but for the most part, it's basically planned out. So now I can just manipulate this drawing here. I won't have to redraw the ball turning a bunch. So there's that. I don't have to keep doing that. Also, why don't you rotate your canvas? I think it would be easier. Yeah, that's probably true. Kind of, I don't know. Sometimes I don't, yeah, maybe. Or sometimes I'll flip it like this, flip it horizontally. It's also a way to check for errors. But yeah. What's up, Courtney James B? My car is kind of broke. I've been having to walk to the store, to the grocery store, which luckily isn't too far from where I live. But it's kind of a good workout because I bought potatoes and like 20 bananas on my last trip, and then I live on the 3rd floor, so it's I get walking 20 minutes with a sack of potatoes and then going up 3 flights of stairs. It's well, I can't complain because I got what I needed, but my arms are a little bit, I'm just kind of feeling it. So it's not like animation's particularly hard workout, but my muscles are a little bit, I can just, yeah. Plus I'm not necessarily super buff. Despite how I may seem, I'm actually a very sensitive creature. Let's see here. That's called the farmer's walk. Great for forearm and traps. Yes, definitely. That's where I feel it. The traps, yeah, like right above your shoulders. Alright, so the ball's going into this pool hole. I'm kind of having the background will be kind of coming in perspective like this. Kind of slowing down for a beat, and then everything will speed up. Again, if anyone's on YouTube, I'm sorry I can't see my chat. But if you're on YouTube, in the description box, be sure to check out the Magic Guys music video. I didn't record any process of making that one because the deadline was 30 days. So wasn't really in the headspace to document, but that one's up. It's just a fun, simple lyric video of these guys rocking out, and they get abducted by a UFO and they fly through space. So I'm basically animating the background and the elements on one layer here. So this is a fully animated background as well. So when I go in to color it, all that will be on one background as well, just flat colors. And I might go over later on a separate layer and add like little textury stuff like this, like little indications of, I guess, the lighting through some like kind of scratchy shading. I'm not super decided on how to do that yet. So basically I'm just doing line work right now, and I'm not very, concerned about it being super duper clean because all this stuff is happening fast. So it's not like we're going to be fixated on any one thing. That's another thing about cleanup. Sometimes it depends on the project, depends on the client. Like more commercial type stuff, they might want super duper clean vector lines, or if you're just drawing in raster or whatever, just like very clean lines. Whereas something more like a punk rock type thing, or even a big budget thing like the Into the Spider-Verse or the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mayhem, they had very messy lines often, and that was part of the style. So it's not like any one style is superior. It just depends on the needs of the project. And yeah, so I'm not like zooming in, like checking, like I could go into 100% and like see like, oh no, there's these lines aren't perfect, or like there's a little thing here, and then like go in and just erase that. And it's like when this stuff is moving, no one is gonna notice that unless they pause the video and zoom in, you know. So yeah, like just prioritizing where you put your energy is so important in animation, because you could sink all your time into one aspect that might not necessarily matter or improve the project. So yeah, it's like, and in addition to just it being a lot of work, there's also a lot of work thinking about how can I actually do less work on certain aspects to save time, because there's such a thing as opportunity cost, where you're putting all your eggs into one basket where you could put your eggs into a different basket that might actually pay off better. So you have to think about where you're putting these stats. It's like a RPG video game where you have like a limited amount of points or experience points, stats you get to put into strength or magic or defense or speed. And you could have a very unbalanced character if you just put all your stats into speed or all your stats into strength. In the context of animation, it could be like you put all your stats into super duper clean line work, but none of the stats into like the actual animation itself, and you'll just have like really clean bad animation. Or like putting all, so it's you have limited stats, limited time, limited skills, limited focus, limited attention. So with animation, it is a marathon, and it's about conserving energy and knowing how to use your energy, knowing where to put the line mileage. That's just my philosophy on that particular topic. Kind of just am imagining the perspective on this ball coming in like this. Actually, let me see reference of the pool balls, because it doesn't have to be super accurate, but I do want it to be the correct balls for this stuff. That's just a little picture I got from WikiHow. And okay, so the 10, 11, 15, 13, maybe I'll draw the 12 ball going in. It has a little stripe. That's what I'll do. Do that. Got it made, squeeze it all, make lemonade. Okay, that's where the lemon comes in. Where'd my cleanup layer go? Yeah, I should probably name this cleanup. Cleanup 2. I'm just gonna indicate what kind of ball this is before I forget. Wait, okay, so this is a 3 ball. Oh, that goes backwards. Okay. Just rough this kind of angle in here. Okay, so this will be the 12 ball. Just rough this in, clean it up later. And we'll have this kind of going up. Alright, I'm just going to play this scene again with the music so I can get back in the vibe of how this is going. So this is the pool scene. They're just rocking out, playing some stuff. Alright. So, yeah, just getting the rough animation in. And I'm keeping the cleanup kind of loosey-goosey. But now, I'm just going to draw some lemons now, I guess. Create a new layer. I'm just going to call this layer lemon. Looking at reference at lemons, and they kind of have like an outie belly button. So it's like this little thing that sticks out. They have one that's like more pointy, and then another one that's a little bit more chubby and flat. But on the roughs, I kind of drew them both as like pointy outies. So I might flatten one of these, but I'm not sure yet. I guess I could flatten this side a little bit. And of course, it'll be clear that it's a lemon once I get the actual coloring in. Do want to kind of keep that kind of sketchy feeling. I just draw some little sketchiness down here to indicate the lighting. Even just one line of like around the surface of an object can be used to indicate highlight or shading. It's like you don't need a bunch of gradients necessarily. Just something that wraps around the 3D form indicates the shape and also the direction the light's coming from. Now this is kind of a abstract type of thing. It's like not super realistic, so it doesn't need to be like very logical or anything, but I do want to kind of make it feel like it's still kind of 3D, especially as it's coming in towards the screen on the Z-axis. That's the thing I've been trying to do more of with animation is sometimes, especially with 2D stuff, it can be tempting to just, well, draw it as 2D. Draw it like a flat surface where things are just moving up or down the screen or the page. But it can be really interesting to have stuff coming into the screen or away from the viewer as well. It just makes it feel more dynamic. And so I'm trying to do that right now. Have this lemon kind of spinning around, and it's going to be coming into the screen. So just going to see how these three frames look so far. Oh, that's not too terrible, I guess. And I'm doing a lot of flipping back and forth to compare the current frame from the previous frame. because it's not any one frame that's the most important, but how do all the frames flow together as a dance? How do they flow in succession, leading from one instance to the next? You could have a really great drawing, but if the drawings around it have bad spacing or weird timing, then in the context of animation, in the context of motion, it's not going to feel right. On the flip side, you could have a bunch of kind of mediocre drawings, but if the spacing and timing is well planned, that will feel a lot better than the example of one really good drawing with bad spacing and timing around it. And so like this isn't like particularly difficult lemon, but you can kind of feel the energy, how it falls in, speeds up, then zooms past and goes into this next crazy scene. I'm just trying to keep the timing, have a texture to the timing. Of course, there's texture to like an image where you have gradients and different visual aspects that are in a single frame. That's textural, but there's also kind of a texture to timing where you have things that slow down, speed up. Maybe that's not the right word, but it's like I'm just trying to think in terms of the whole movement and show this world based off a bunch of images, and then it goes into someone else's head, kind of like a dream. It's like that's what's cool about animation, is you can project your dream onto a screen for other people to see. Whereas if you have a crazy dream and you try to tell it to someone, they aren't seeing what you saw in your dream or what you felt in your dream. And oftentimes relaying a dream to someone, just to the other person, feels confusing or boring, or they don't understand the purpose of it. But for animation, you can literally draw your dream and shove it into someone else's brain, and they can be inside your dream. Now, of course, no one has the skill to truly draw or animate or express what's in their head to the highest fidelity, to the highest level. There's always some bits of information that are lost in the process of drawing or writing or communicating, and then that communication gets reinterpreted to your viewer or your listener, the person that you're speaking to, that you're communicating with. They're going to reinterpret it slightly in their own way, based off their own experiences, based off their own emotions, based off their own perceptions. In this sense, we're all kind of alone in our heads. No matter how much we try to reach out to another person, you'll never know truly what it's like to be anyone else but yourself. But social life still goes on. Despite the flaws of communication, we're still communicate good enough to make things happen. And so it's not like it's totally useless. Even if we only understand 98% of a person, even if there's a few percentage points that we don't understand about a person, being able to communicate is better than not being able to communicate at all. So in this sense, I'm not depressed about the inability to communicate perfectly, because the other option is not being able to communicate at all. Now, of course, a lot of communication is nonverbal, and a lot of other animals that don't have sophisticated language like us are still able to communicate stuff, but they aren't really able to tell complex stories. They can communicate like threats, or say, I mean, even bees can communicate the location of flowers and how much pollen there is. They do their little bee dance, and they will wiggle more drastically depending on how good the find is. And somehow, I don't remember how, but they're able to like locate stuff from far away. So that's communication, but they aren't really able to tell stories. Everything is just like in the immediate present. They aren't really able to look up at the stars and philosophize about stuff. Now, I think probably like mammals have more philosophical thoughts I think dogs think about stuff, and cats, I think they're a lot smarter than we think they are. I'm not saying they think about the same stuff we think about, but they have their little dog dreams. You know, they they think about little dog stuff. So, and if you've seen those Instagram videos of those buttons, you can look up those cats and dogs that have buttons that the owners give them to press on and to communicate things, single words. They can string together a few words to create meaningful sentences. And dogs and cats do understand words from their owners. They can memorize dozens or even hundreds of words. So that's kind of makes me sad, because like they can understand certain things that we say, like want to go outside, want a cookie, want to go on a walk. They understand these concepts, but they lack the ability to say these things themselves. And that makes me sad, because it's like they can't talk. They can still try to communicate stuff to us. Like, of course, when you tell a dog you want to go on a walk, and then it gets all excited, maybe it'll bring you the leash, starts wagging its tail, start jumping up and down. It's telling you, yeah, I want to go on a walk. But a dog can't really just go up to you and say, hey, how's it going? You want to take me on a walk now? I mean, it can't say those. It can't. Or like it can express stuff, like if it's feeling sick, it can whine and things like that. But now with these buttons, they can click with their paws. They can learn how to say certain things like tummy, hurt. It's like before all that they could do was whine, but now they can express, hey, there's something wrong with this part of my body. Yeah, I mean, it takes a ton of training to get these dogs and cats accustomed to using the little buttons, but there's definitely something in there. And I think the more we learn about cats and dogs in particular, and other mammals, the more we're going to realize just how incredibly smart they are. And they definitely have emotions, they definitely have thoughts, and I love them, and I love cats. And well, now I'm just kind of, I don't know what I'm talking about now, but well, yeah, that was kind of weird. Sometimes when I start streaming, I just start saying stuff, and yeah. But now I think I'm gonna be done, so I can focus a little bit better. Anyways, I just wanted to show all these different things that I'm working on, and that's about all I got to say about that. So be sure to check out the Magic Eyes music video on the channel. It's on the link on the YouTube video. It's just called Magic Eyes. And then if you're on Instagram, well, I guess you can just go to my YouTube channel from the links area on my profile page. Just click on links, and then it'll have the YouTube. And that recent music video is on there. So I want to thank everybody for watching and listening to me ramble about random stuff. And that's all I got to say about that. So I'm going to get going. So I'll see you later.